All right. Welcome to the Green Burial Chronicles with Morgan Oaks. I am so excited. Today we're here with Emily and Jordan Waite. We're in season 2.
Right.
Kind of crazy. This started off as we'll see what happens. And it's really turned into something cool at Morgan Oaks where it allows people outside of Morgan Oaks to understand what we do, why we do what we do, and who the people are that are residing there. And so before we get too far down the path, tell me a little bit about you guys. Who are you? And who's your family?
I'm Jordan Waite. I'm from Texas originally, and met Emily there. And we have two little ones, Evie, who is 5, and AJ, who we lost last year.
Right.
And I'm from a gigantic family. There's 9 of us, and that family has been very helpful for us, and I'm sure we'll get into that. And this is my lovely wife, Emily.
Perfect.
Hello. I'm Emily. I have one sister. I have a couple step siblings, and I've lived in California for most of my life.
Okay.
Southern California, and then I moved to Texas for a job, and that's where I met Jordan. And then we got together, and then COVID happened, and we had a baby, and we thought, this is really hard. We need to move closer to family. Now, his family is in Texas, but they're kind of scattered. And my mom is here in Sacramento. And so we moved here during COVID.
Yeah, I remember that story.
Yes.
You guys had a COVID baby. So we're going to talk about AJ today. I remember vividly when I got the call. I remember the ceremony. I remember Evie probably the most. That one was hard for me. Let's start with, what are some words that would describe or tell me a little bit about AJ?
AJ was born with an ultra rare condition called GSS, glutathione synthetase deficiency. It's a genetic condition that we didn't know we were carriers of. There's been fewer than 100 cases ever documented.
Wow.
He was a snuggle bug. He loved to be held. He spent a lot of time in the hospital and did not love it. He liked to be home with mom and dad and sister, and that was definitely where he was happiest.
Yeah, he loved when we sang to him. And he loved, he would look at Evie, and, she would show things to him, and he would always was fascinated and looked at her. He was just sweet. He was so cute that when we were in the hospital, every time a new nurse would come in, they would say, okay, they told me that he was cute, but he is cute.
I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
When I saw his photo, I was like, cutest
Yeah.
kid ever.
He's Gerber baby. He was and he was really chonky because we were trying to help him grow. And so they had us fortify his milk and stuff. And so it made him really chonky and even cuter because he was
so
a
nugget,
sweet.
his little outfits.
Yes.
Yeah. I remember that. And, I think it's hard as a mom, right? No parent should have to lose their child before you go, right? So can you share a little bit about navigating his condition, because he was only 9 months when he passed? Is that right?
Yeah, he was a week shy of 9 months.
Yeah. So you guys were in and out of hospitals, Evie, and you're dealing with a condition that only 100 people have ever been documented. So what was that like for you guys?
Well, he was born, he seemed normal. He almost was a breech, but we got him out in time regular, which was great for me. And he seemed fine. And then about 12 hours after he was born, he started getting yellower and the nurses noticed, and they said, that does not happen. You're either jaundiced or you're not. So they kind of immediately took him to the NICU. And then for the next 2 weeks, they were treating symptoms and narrowing it down and all that kind of stuff. And then we kind of were talking to they got a geneticist involved,
Right.
and told us what they suspected it was, which was this super rare disease. But they couldn't confirm it until we had taken blood tests. And so he was in the NICU for 26 days, and then he came home.
And he had 4 blood transfusions in that time.
In that time.
it was the condition basically makes it unable for his body couldn't regulate the pH level of his blood.
Okay.
So his blood would go acidic. And that kind of made the treatment was literally sodium bicarbonate. It's baking powder and
Baking soda.
Baking soda.
Yeah.
Baking
Baking
soda.
powder.
Baking soda. And we had to give him that on a very regular schedule, along with some other vitamins that were basically antioxidants to help with the damage that the baking soda causes.
He had about 10 or 11 different medications.
Wow.
And some of them were like over the counter, like, vitamin C and stuff like that. But we had to give them to him every 3 hours, every day, without fail.
Day and night.
So
I hope you don't like to sleep.
Yeah.
because
So
You're not.
3 hours.
So Jordan would take, like, because he worked during the day, he would put him down. He would do the midnight shift, and then I would do the 3 a.m. shift, and then he would do the 6 a.m. shift, and then I would have the rest of the day until he came home. So what I would do is I would prep his meds every day. It took me about 45 minutes. I had a whole I had a very organized system.
You have to every 3 hours. You have to.
Yeah. So I had a color coding system with different electrical tape that I used a label maker to make all the things. And I would prep all those syringes for the next day. And then I would put them in baggies, including like a water flush and stuff like that. And then at the end of the day, I would wash them and prep them for the next day. And so that was every day.
Yeah.
And he had 8 or 10 different things we were giving him every day. And in the middle of the night, you have to remember what his schedule is and how much of this does he get at what time. And so having all that stuff pre-prepared was really the only way to make it.
Yeah. I can't imagine. So did they give you a life expectancy at that point, or was it
No.
just
Everything the whole time was, we don't know. Nobody knows. There's no data to go off of.
Jordan's variation of the gene had been documented as severe. My variation of the gene had not been documented at all.
Okay.
So it could have been anything from mild to severe.
Okay.
And so that would have made his condition probably, they were hoping in the moderate, which is he needs meds for most of his life. But, there's another case study of someone who had this and was able to, went to college.
They were just turning 19 and going off to college.
So they never gave us a life expectancy because, like Jordan said, they just didn't know. And I think, like us, they were very hopeful. But
There were basically 2 major studies on it that we found, that we read, or that they found and gave to us, and we read through. And one was very, very similar to him, but it was some peasant kind of lifestyle in China a long time ago,
Very rural,
and
very
they couldn't,
village.
and they said they chose to just take the child home, and
So they didn't know. We had an amazing team of specialists. We
I
were with
remember you said
Kaiser,
that.
and his geneticist got involved from when he was 2 weeks on, and she was amazing. She went way above and beyond, and she, has colleagues at Stanford and around the world that she was consulting with. And then when he started having seizures, a few months in, we had a neurologist and we had a hematologist and we had a palliative care team. And what are the specialties we had?
pediatric specialist.
Yeah, pediatric
and
specialist. So we had all those people really like helping us. And then, he got a G tube when he was a few months old. So we had that whole like surgery route as well. And so we really, the palliative team kind of came in and they said, this isn't about death. This is about managing very complicated illnesses. And it was kind of, this team was really new at Kaiser, and it was kind of a way to people that are outside, cancer, they have a lot of resources for because it's so
Pervasive.
so pervasive, and there's so many people that have it.
Right.
So this palliative team was really to kind of come in and help manage all of the specialists for these long-term diseases that really didn't know.
And that's helpful.
Yeah, it was very helpful.
So let's move forward. Obviously, he's no longer here. So he passes. I want to say unexpectedly, but we didn't know. We, and I say we with you guys, the staff didn't know. And so he passes. and now there's a decision that needs to be made. So what drew you guys to Morgan Oaks? How did you find us? What was that like for you guys?
It was through the hospice care team. They brought your name up after we had mentioned that we wanted some kind of green option, mostly because he spent so much of his life in the hospital. We wanted him somewhere more natural. We wanted him more, away from that. And that was kind of the first thing that brought your name up. And Emily had heard about a green burial at some point.
So I really like the show Bones. And there was like an episode where like somebody was buried in like a place where you could do trees and stuff, but it was an additional person who was supposed to be there. And so I just really, that always stuck with me, that idea of having someone, like having a tree and having someone like that you love, something good coming out of it, some life coming out of that. And I knew that we did not want to do cremation, and I knew that I just didn't want to put him in a traditional cemetery because it just seems so grim. I know that a lot of them are probably, updating and getting a little bit more open, but I just, we didn't want that. And then I think we did we come out before we decided to go with you? I think we did.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So I think just once we got there, the fact that people walk their dogs and, that there's life happening all around it was really, it wasn't super manicured. It wasn't, it felt very like open and free. And that just felt like really, that's what we wanted for him.
Yeah. And you have people around you that have similar names to your mom. And like, it was like, I remember all that. Yeah. And so and I also want to hit on your rocks. Let's talk about the rocks. So for the listeners might be like, what does that mean? So in our plots, we allow for people to do painted rocks, anything that stays within. We have 2 women that garden their husband's plots, and that's kind of cool. We have one that does, an art project every other week near you. So tell us a little bit about the rocks that are at AJ's plot.
So we saw the rocks when we came and visited, and I just love that idea of like being able to do something and leave something for him that wasn't just flowers, like that it would last and it could mean something. And so we kind of got into that, and then what we did is at his. A lot of people came over to my mom's after the funeral, and I think there was other people the day before as well that were in town. And so we had a bunch of rocks, we had a bunch of paints, and said like, hey, if you want to, please paint a rock. We're gonna put him around his plot. We're going to, we're gonna do that. And then we did some for his birthday, for his first birthday. We did a theme one of Super Mario, and we've done some holiday ones. We did. Excuse me, we did some Christmas.
Yeah, it's just
Easter.
A fun way for us to, have an activity as a family, and it's kind of relaxing to just sit and paint together and, think about what sort of things we've been doing as a family, and paint that on a rock. And
our daughter paints all sorts of rocks, and we bring those up to him. And when we visit, she will bring toys and she'll show him things and she'll talk to him, and it's really, really sweet.
Can we talk about her? So number one, AJ is the cutest. Like I for the listeners, I can't even explain. Adorable. Anyways, she struck a nerve for me at the service. I think I had to walk away at that point. And usually I'm very composed. I deal with this day in and day out. Tell the listeners her behavior at the service. Didn't she sing us a song?
She did.
Yeah, we sang Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, because that was the song that he liked for me to sing, and Evie would sing to him as well. And so we all sang to him, and I think she said she wanted to sing to him by herself.
She did.
I think she did.
So
yeah.
For the listeners, she is the most precious little human. And I remember her up there, and she wanted to sing that song by herself.
Yes.
And she sang it.
4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She was
I
4
mean,
at the time,
literally 4. And I think one of you might have been holding her, or someone was, and she just belted it out. And
Yeah.
it was so sweet. So just like, how has she been since all of this?
So it's been really hard for us, but I did not want it to be something we didn't talk about, something, so it is really hard to talk to her about it, especially at the beginning. Now for me, it's much easier, but it helps, we told her that AJ died because he was sick, and they couldn't fix, the doctors couldn't fix him, the hospital couldn't fix him. And then she was worried that she would die if she got sick. And so we said, no, it's something, his body didn't work from the beginning. It's not something you have. It's not something you can get. And so just trying to explain that to her. But we have a picture of him in our living room, and she talks to him, and, we do go up as a family to the plot and see him, and, she'll play, or she'll share her snacks, or she'll show him the rocks and all sorts of things. So it was really important to us to know that she is a big sister and grow up like with maybe not memories of him because she was 4, but knowing that he's part of her life. We have a picture of them framed in her room. So it was really important for us to keep him alive in that way, and not just it be something that we don't talk about because it's sad and hard.
And she needs to understand that. I think that's important. I remember when my dad, he was diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer. You guys might have heard that through many of the podcasts or whatever. But my daughter was a little bit older and struggles with autism. So understanding death, it's hard. And when he got diagnosed, she thought everyone had cancer. She would look at the dogs and be like, is Lucy going to get cancer? Am I going to? And it's so hard to explain that to
that there's something on the inside that's not working.
You're not just going to catch it, or so I can only imagine. And I love that you guys are still talking about him, that you have family, rituals that you do, like painting the rocks. So tell me what the grief journey has been like for you guys. Are you plugged into communities? I know Morgan Oaks has probably been a big place for that. Talk to me about your grief journey.
So we haven't plugged into a lot of groups, mostly because at the beginning, I didn't feel like sharing. Like I'm one of those people that feels like I have to be on when I'm meeting other people, and I just didn't have it. The hospice that we were connected with through Kaiser had grief services. So we've had a grief counselor come, every week, and now every couple of weeks, to talk to us. And we have individual counseling, and that has really helped me. And, Jordan, so Jordan has a counseling too. We tried a couples counselor, but it was kind of just repeating the same thing.
Yeah.
So, and the grief counselor and our individual counselors are, the counselor that I have, is from the palliative team. So she knew him.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. And so she, helps me understand the things that you would need couple counseling for, like making sure that you're communicating, making sure that you guys are on the same page and everything. So that has been really important for me because, as I think we all know, grief makes you turn inward. At the beginning, I could not get out of my head that I could have done something better. I relived every moment that I got frustrated, every moment that I got upset, the nights that because I was also had postpartum. So postpartum and I, would get upset. And then I thought, like, should I have done something else? Should I have fought harder at the hospital?
Sure.
Should I have, pushed for something else? And so separating the depression and the grief was part of that journey. And that's something that you cannot see when you're inside it. My counselor told me, she said, you are getting these twisted, and it's so much harder to untwist later.
And every step of the way, the doctors and nurses were all impressed with how much we had to do and how we were getting it done. And it was coming from every angle that we were doing it right, but there was nothing else to be done.
Yeah.
And I think that was kind of a big source of grief at the beginning, was just we fought so hard. We did everything we could. And
it really did feel like it came out of nowhere because we had all been working with Hope, with our specialists, with, helping to make plans to kind of streamline some of the processes.
Sure.
And so it felt like it came out of nowhere, even though it didn't.
Right.
You know, the last week we had wanted to get a surgery for him that would make getting blood and getting transfusions easier.
Yeah.
And the anesthesiologist, everyone was on board for it, but the anesthesiologist was not. And so she really pushed back. And so we said, no, we'll take the risk. And then so she came and brought the specialist, and we had a meeting, and she said, look, anesthesia, you seem like you're at peace. You're not. It just wrecks your body. And at this point, he hadn't been able to keep food down, which is why he was in the hospital.
Yeah.
So she said, I want to wait a week.
Yeah.
And so I said, okay, well, he hates the hospital. He will not get better in the hospital. So let's take him home. And that's when we got connected through hospice. And yeah, so that we knew was coming, but we also kind of anticipated that it would be a while.
Yeah.
So it happened, you know, he died a week after we took him home.
Wow. Okay. So you guys visit often, yes? At Morgan Oaks?
Yeah.
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 How has that helped you, being able to come out and walk and just like be there? For the listeners, this family, the Waite family, has a tree at their site, like Emily said. And, you know, if you've never visited it, I think it's hard to understand like the peace and serenity that place really brings.
Absolutely.
I know for our listeners, everyone that I've ever had on the podcast has said, you know, what's crazy is there's a cemetery and then there's Morgan Oaks.
Right.
Like I used to, when my dad died, we were really close and it was hard. It was a hard few years. It still is hard, but I would go put on my weighted backpack, and I would walk for hours.
Yeah.
You know, I have one husband, he's been on TR, and he picks up his wife every week. Like literally he goes and he like, you know, takes her for a walk and then returns her back. He told her about his new girlfriend. Like it's so everybody does something different, but it's not normal for a typical cemetery to have that. So tell me a little bit about what it's been for you.
When we did the tour initially, that was when it really struck that, you know, we were standing there on the hill looking out, and it just feels nice. It feels, it's so peaceful, and it's natural and beautiful, and having a place like that to go to visit and, you know, walk the trails with Evie and, you know, go, we bring our little wagon with our rocks and
she makes a little fort in there. She holds the umbrella above her. And
That's so cute.
has a little secret hideaway.
And it's just, it feels like a, you know, a connection in a different way that I haven't felt before with, you know, just a regular cemetery.
Yeah, I remember when we were on the tour and we met you, and you know, that to me was the first like green flag of like, okay, this is somebody who, you know, knows how to get things done, is also very empathetic, and you know, I just felt a connection already.
Yeah.
And then when we got to the hill, I think I turned to Jordan and said, I don't even want to look anywhere else. Like we're done, you know.
I'm biased to the hill too. My dad's there, so
Yeah. So we just really, you know, liked it. And it just feels like, yes, it feels peaceful, but it feels very serene. Even when it's very hot and, you know, brown.
No, we call it our golden era, Emily.
Golden era.
It's not brown.
Our golden state era. Yes. So it just feels like uplifting to be there.
Yeah. I mean, you never want something like this to happen, but you know, as someone who manages out there, like I'm so grateful to have AJ there, that we could be the company that gets to care for him. I believe, if I remember, you were like, will you take good care of him?
Yeah.
And I was like 100%. I've been here since we started the cemetery, and you know, everybody stops and looks at his and wants to know the story. Everybody hates seeing his age, right? Like that's always really hard, but he is like our little rock up there, you know? So I feel blessed that you guys chose us, because again, no family wants to go through this, and we could do nothing but take great care of him. So tell me a little bit about, like, as for the listeners, if you could share some insight on like other people that have gone through this, like what has helped you get through the days? You know, I was talking to another family before you answer that, because when I lost my dad, it was very tragic, like I've said, and similar to you. I mean, for most people, right?
Absolutely.
You can never prepare for this. And the one question people hated asking me was, how are you?
Yeah.
And I didn't mind it because
Yeah.
honestly, if they were asking because
They
were looking
care.
for an answer.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, my friends would be like, how are you? I know how you're going to answer that. And for me, it felt like they care. I want to tell you.
Yeah.
So, I don't think it's a bad question. I think if people are going to ask it, then they need to be ready for the response because it could get ugly.
Yeah.
But like, what helped you guys get through the hard days, or what was something that you're like, man, I'm so grateful for this?
His brother and sister-in-law. They
At the very beginning,
all of his brothers.
it was so much just kind of immediate care and
Yeah.
help from the family that we're close. We don't talk all the time.
Sure.
We're not constantly in
There's
contact.
9 of you. You would
There's-
have no time to do
Yeah,
anything
how
else.
can you? How can you? But as soon as I told the family, Jason and Amy said, we're getting on a
coming.
plane.
We're coming.
We'll
We're gonna
be
help
there.
you."
We'll be there as soon
And
as the plane leaves.
They could not stay for the funeral because they have
right.
5 kids between them, so
Yeah.
they had to get back to that. But they came out. They said, "Okay, we're on our way. Like, do you need us to stay somewhere, or can we stay with you?" And we said, "No, we have.
We have the guest room.
We have the guest room. That it was AJ's room.
And
so it
as
still had
soon
to
as they
stay.
left, John and Angie were there. And so it was just kind of,
And they stayed with us for 6 weeks, and they took care of Evie. They helped me pack up his syringes and his meds, and Angie did all the work to figure out how to dispose of them safely, and did all of the things that just reminded me that he wasn't here. We had his best friend.
Oh, yep. I remember him.
Yeah, said, "Hey, I'm going to put a Kickstarter out for you guys."
Yeah.
And we said, "No, we don't need that." He goes, "No, it's going to happen. Like, approve the story that I'm sending you." So he put it on Facebook, and not a Kickstarter, but a GoFundMe.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so people gave money, and they did meal trains, and it was, the amount of support we had was truly amazing. And there's a friend of mine, and her name is Sarah, and she is such an amazing friend. Every day since AJ has died at 8 p.m., she sends me a little blue heart and a star in a text. And she's told me, "You don't ever have to answer, but this is to let you know I'm thinking of you. I'm thinking of AJ."
It's a good friend.
Every day.
It's a great friend.
Yeah.
Takes a lot of thought.
Yeah.
Takes a lot of work. I mean, honestly, you hate to say like, oh, that's work, but it is.
It is.
And most of the world will never have to feel what you guys have felt. And we're grateful for that. But
should
like,
hope not.
yeah. But obviously there was a story that needed to be told, right? And I'm grateful that you guys were able to share today, because I do, at our cemetery, we probably have more children than we would like.
Yeah.
And everybody has a really great story to give hope to families. And so, again, we love having AJ there. Unfortunate for how it happened, but I'm glad that we get to care for him. Is there anything that you want the listeners to know, like anything that, like any last final thoughts from you guys about what all this has meant, or anything?
I want to say specifically, when you're dealing with grief, so many people will say, "Hey, let me know if I can do anything." If you're dealing with someone who's going through that kind of grief, try to offer a specific suggestion. Say, "Hey, can I bring dinner to you tonight? Can I
come do your dishes?
do dishes, do laundry, do something?" Just give a specific thing. I know it's hard to think of and it feels like an imposition, but it really, really helped us to have people who just came and did.
Yeah, John and Angie put Evie to bed.
Yeah.
Read her story and did all of those things. Just anything that can take the mental load off. If you think it's small, it isn't.
It's true.
They helped me. I had help, boxing up some of his stuff. We actually, one of his sisters gifted us, we had quilts made of all his little outfits.
Yes.
And, his sister-in-law, my sister-in-law now too, because we're married.
Our sister.
Yeah, our sister-in-law helped me pack up all the outfits and, put the notes in and kind of get it all ready and sent and everything. And it was
What a great
just,
idea.
yeah. So anything that you can do, even if you think it's small, even if you think it's doesn't matter, it does.
It does.
Because you're there, you're showing them, hey, you care. Even like my friend Sarah sending me a text every day. That was a light on some really dark days. You know, sending a little text saying, I'm thinking of you. You don't have to answer. You're welcome to answer anytime you want. You don't, but I'm going to send this to let you know that I'm thinking about you.
Yeah. Gosh, Jordan, that's such a great, like, it's true because I mean, I could have thought of a million things that I needed to get done, but I had girlfriends that were like, what's your favorite dinner? And it was my kid's favorite dinner was like, I don't even know, something silly, but I was like, and they were like, great, ordered.
Yeah.
You know, and I never felt like I was like, oh gosh, you don't have to do that. I don't have the money. It was, they just knew.
Yeah.
Like, you have the money, but like, you don't have the brain power right now to handle this.
Yeah, your brain is busy grieving. You can't put that energy towards planning a meal. It's
no. And grief is a really interesting beast, you know, and I will ask you guys because I know, you know, the first year everyone says is the worst because it's the first of everything. First Christmas without AJ, first, you know, and I remember mine happened. So I had some time to plan because it was in June. So I didn't have a big holiday. But you know, the weirdest thing was I had Halloween hit.
Yeah.
We never did anything for Halloween. It didn't even matter. There wasn't a thing, but like,
but you still feel it.
It was a gathering that I was like, he's not here. You know, weird Easter. I'm 44 years old. It's not like I got an Easter basket anymore, but it was crazy. So, you know, for you guys, is there anything that you do to like prepare for grief like that in dealing with this?
Well, the first thing that hit was his birthday. And, you know, like you said, he died on July 7th and his birthday was October 13th.
Yeah.
So we had some time to prepare. I knew that I didn't want to do nothing. I wanted to celebrate his birthday. I feel like I got hit a lot harder at Christmas time because that's one of my favorite. It's my favorite holiday. And we had a little stocking that had been made for him. And, you know, he was home last Christmas, which is great. You know, his first Christmas. But this last one hurt. And now we're going through, we just did Mother's Day. It's his birthday. Then it's Father's Day, and then it's my birthday, and then it's the 1 year anniversary. So we have kind of a slew of
firsts.
Yeah. And what's helped along the way is at Easter time, we painted Easter rocks. At Christmas time, we painted Christmas rocks. And it's not much, but it's also not nothing.
Yeah.
We still hung up his stocking at Christmas. And I think I put tinsel on the portrait we have in the front room.
I love that.
So, and I think the only other thing I would say to people is do not think you need to do this alone. Grief, don't worry about making your friends sad. They're sad for you.
Yeah.
So accept help, ask for specific things. And to anyone who's supporting people in grief, please don't say they're in a better place. That feels really
dismissive.
It just feels really hard because even though he was suffering because he had this disease, he would still be better off here.
Yeah.
So, you know, I realize that what's meant behind it is so kind, but if they're fresh in their grief,
don't say that.
Yeah. If they say it, go ahead.
Sure.
But if they don't, you know, just say, you know, I wish he was still here with you.
Yeah. Okay. No, that's good.
Or she.
Yeah. He or she. Well, I appreciate you guys. Like I said, I know this is not an easy topic, obviously, to talk about. But I do think it helps people, right? Like other listeners. And so I'm grateful that you guys said yes today, because I know someone's going to hear something that they needed to hear.
Right.
And so it's not, you know, and I think the thing I would tell you guys and people going through grief is, it's not like at year 3, you're like, okay,
we're over it now.
We're over it.
Yeah.
You know, I remember a friend year 3 for my dad. I was like, I feel like such a loser. Like I cry at everything. Like a song comes on or I cross something or I travel by El Pollo Loco, his favorite restaurant. And I'm like, Dad. And he said to me, Steph, grief doesn't have a timeline.
Yeah.
And it's probably going to be forever. It doesn't get easier. It gets different is what I was told. And it's so true, you know? So thank you again for being here. You guys are wonderful. You know that. And this is going to be one of the top podcasts. I know it, because not only was AJ just fabulous, but you guys are great. And I appreciate you saying yes and allowing me to ask you these questions that are not easy. So For the listeners, thank you for listening. Walk gently, remember deeply, and celebrate the legacy of life. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you next time.